All right, so after defining a function, like I was explaining, after defining a function, for the function to work, you have to call the function. Okay, so in this case, we have defined a function, then want to use it. To use it, see the statement, we just say total is assigned add, then we supply the two parameters. In this case, the two parameters are 400 and 500. Okay, so the 400, which is num1, is passed to n1. The 500, which is num2, is passed to n2. Result equals n1 plus n2, that gives 900. The 900 is what is returned, okay, to total, so that when you print total, it is that figure, which is 900, that will be printed. Okay, this is the formatted print statements. So what you have in braces will be replaced by the variable, the value of the variable, which in this case is 900. So if we run this, you see the outcome of that part of the code. Okay. That's the outcome. Sum is 900. Okay. So that's it. All right. Let's proceed. This was given to illustrate that functions can work without parameters. Okay, so it all depends on what you are trying to achieve. Sometimes you may not need to use parameters. Okay, like look at this def capture data. You have surname, inputs, inputs, enter name, first name, input, enter first name, gender is assigned input, enter gender. So the user is asked to enter surname, first name, and gender. Print, this print prints a blank space as usual, like this kind of blank space now. Then full name is assigned first name plus space plus surname. Okay, this is concatenation. Suppose we are all used to concatenation. Okay. Okay, so the first name and the surname, are joined together with space in between. Okay, that's the full name. Then print, full name is a gender. So you could say, anyway, I'll run it so you see. Print for another blank space, then return, this return ends the function, terminates the function. Now, for this function, to call this function, just simply mention its name. Okay? You don't need to assign it to something like this. Here we are assigning the call. We are assigning it. Total equals that, but in this case, we don't need that to do that, right? Because no value was returned. We just simply say return without returning a value. So we can, so because of that, we don't need to assign it to something. Just mention its name just like this, okay? And that does it, right? So let's run it so you see how that works. Assuming that somebody's first name is Smith and surname is Ojo, or let's say code. Gender is male. So it says Okon Smith is a male. Okay, because Smith is a male. Is this clear? Is this clear to everyone? Any questions on that before proceed? Is it clear?
Why do we have placement loss and quotation? What's that code for?
Is it this one?
Line 27.
This quote?
Yes, line 27. That's quotation. Yes. And that 2 plus, double plus.
Okay.
What is the space for?
Let me show you what it's for. Look at the outputs. You see the surname is Smith, right? First name is Okon.
Yes.
I would say full name is what? First name, which is Okon. Concatenation, this is to join. When you are using plus with strings, these are strings, these are no numbers. So it joins them together. Okay, so you see it's joining first name with space with surname. This space here is what created this space between the Okon and the Smith.
Okay.
That's the function. If I remove that, let's remove it so you see what will happen. If I remove that and run it again, let's use the same name. Okon Smith. No, we said Smith Okon. Smith Okon. Male. Can you see any difference?
Okay, yes, I've seen it.
So that's what it's doing there. Otherwise, it will be like this, which will not make sense. All right. So can we proceed now? Can we?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, now let me illustrate something else. Let me explain something which is very important. Let's talk about what we call variable. Let's just say local scope and global scope. Okay. Um, Now, there's what we call variable scope. Variable scope. Okay. Now, to illustrate this, you see here I'm defining a variable, right? Now, this variable is at the module level, right? It's at the module level. I don't know. Okay, it's at the module level. It's at the when I say module level, what am I saying? This one is it's a global scope. That's what we call a global scope. Okay. Which means you see this variable is not defined inside any function. Okay, it's not defined in a function now. It's defined outside of the function, right? It's not within any function. Okay. Now there's another function. There's a function here. Okay. Def update value var1. Then within the function, I'm saying var1 is assigned var1 times 2. Okay. Now there's this another var1 inside the function. This one has a local scope. Okay. Let me call it global variable. This one has what they call a local scope because it's defined inside the function. Okay. So now, if we say print, we are printing this function var1 and then return. Don't forget that this var1 you are seeing here, this var1 is what is passed into the function. Look here. What did I say this is called? What's happening here? What did I say is called?
Don't understand yet.
I said this is a function call. Do you remember? I said this is a function definition. What's happening here is a call. Is that not so? Is that not so?
Yes.
Yeah. Now you are
Yes.
calling this function and passing this argument var1. Okay. This var1 you are passing is this one. Is this one, which is a global variable. You are passing it into the function. Okay, but when it gets into the function, that's this, you are passing it as var1. But when it gets into the function, within the function, you are now defining another variable called var1, the same name. Okay, and then you are uh, multiplying var1, which came from outside this 200 times 2 to get 400, and then you are assigning it to this var1, which is local, which means this var1 now is 400, right? Is that right?
Okay. Yes.
It's 400. So you
Right.
print.
I don't. Good.
It's not 400. What's the value of this var1?
Um. 200.
200. Yes.
Yep. So what time is it? Which time is it? Wait.
Then within the function, we are multiplying it by 2. Okay?
Okay.
We are
Okay.
multiplying it by 2. So this var1 inside the function will be what? What value?
So
200 times 2 is what? What's the value of var1 within the function? var1 within the function will be 400, right? Because you are saying var1 times 2, right? So you are multiplying it by 2. Are we on the same page? So now, when we print this output, var1 in function, that's inside the function, print var1, and then we print this, we say var1 outside of the function. Here we are printing var1, here we are printing var1, but you are getting different values, okay? The one inside the function is 400, the one outside the function is 200, which means when you change var1 inside the function, it did not affect the value of the var1 outside of the function. The reason is because this var1 is a local variable, has a local scope, while this one is a global variable with what is called a global scope, right? From within the function, you can assess the value of a global variable. But outside of the function, you cannot access an internal variable or a local variable. Okay, so this is what we call, we describe this as variable scope. Okay,
Can let me.
you want to ask a question?
No, no, no. I'm looking at the. You're moving it up around. I was looking at the.
Codes.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Please, why did they divide it into local scope and global scope? That's the variable.
Yeah. What's the question? What's
I
your
said
question?
that is why did they divide it into global and local variable?
It's not that. Yeah, you see, there's what they call name resolution. Okay, when you are designing a program, when you are designing a program,
Okay.
sometimes there are, there are some variables, some items within some specific functions, okay, which you want to use within the function, not outside. Okay, so it's part of, how do I put it now? It's part of, uh, well, partly for security, and there's what they call name resolution. Okay, by designing it this way, it helps you to avoid setting some conflicts. You know, conflict. For example, let's say you have a variable within the function. If this variable within the function can be changed anywhere in the code, anyhow, let's say a variable inside the function has a name, which happens to be the same name as the variable outside of the function. If somehow, for some reason, maybe accidentally or deliberately, some things are changed outside of the function, okay? I mean, if it's any changes you make outside affects what's going on inside the function, there could be a problem. There could be a lot of problems. Because when you start writing very serious code, it's not these short codes we are talking about. We're talking of, huge, I mean, sometimes millions of lines of codes. Okay, so if such conflicts can easily occur, it will create a whole lot of problems. It will create a lot of problems, okay? And resolving those problems might not be easy, okay? And don't forget we said that um, functions are self-contained codes, okay? So the function has something you may call, it's like a module of its own, sort of. Okay, it's like an enclosed container. Okay, so it's like there's some sort of privacy within the function, some sort of privacy within the function. You understand? So that's the way it is. That's the way it is designed. These things are designed to be, so that a function can run on its own, independent of other functions. So, for example, if you define a variable within one function, okay, a particular name, give a variable a particular name, and then another function also have that a variable that bears the same name, there should be no conflict between the two. You think there should be conflict? Do you think there should be conflict? There should be no conflict, so that anything you change within that function is not supposed to go and affect what's happening inside another function. If such is allowed to happen, it will lead to a lot
Sir,
of
but did
problems.
you
Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
I said if you change what is outside the function, it will affect what is inside this one.
It will not affect what is inside. See the point. When you are inside a function, you see, what did I call this scope? Global scope, right? Global variable. Okay. What that simply
Yeah.
means is that this variable now, the value of this variable can be accessed from anywhere, even inside any function, because it is global. Okay. It's global. It's just like, for instance, federal, like let's look at the way Nigeria is organized now. We have federal, the federal level, right? The federal level. Federal, the states have access to things from federal, isn't it? Is that not so? Is that not so? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
The federal government in Nigeria, for example, they have control over what's going on in the states. True of us.
True.
Because the states are under the federal, they are within the country, right? But the states cannot control what's going on in federal.
Okay.
Cannot. Are you following? And a state, Edo State, for example, what's happening within Edo State? The government within Edo State cannot have influence on what other state now? Let's say Lagos State. Are you following me now?
Yes, sir.
You cannot, whatever policy or whatever you are doing within Edo State is confined to Edo State. It doesn't affect Lagos State. Are you following? So, in this my example, the states are like functions. Those are local. What's happening inside is local variable. So, because it's local variable, it's whatever you are doing there is confined to that state or that function. But the global variable affects everywhere, even within the states. So that's why I said from within a function, you can access the global variable. From within the function, you can access the global variable. So if you change something, let's say within the function, you can have access to what the global variable, right? But when you are inside a function, you cannot have access to what's happening inside another function. Okay? You cannot, right? And also, what is defined within the function is limited to that function. It doesn't affect federal, it doesn't affect the global area. It seems this thing is a bit tough for us to get, right? So
No,
you understand
I
it now?
understand. Yes, sir.
Okay. So Edo State and Lagos State have helped you to understand it. That's good. That's good. So I hope it's clear to every one of us. Is it clear? It's clear.
So, in what text do we use
What?
this? In what text do we use local and global scope?
From what?
Like, in what text? Like, when do we use it?
When do we
When
use
is it come? Where is it commonly used in?
these kind of things? These kind of things, at this stage of your learning, it might be a bit, you may not easily be able to appreciate the importance of this kind of things. It's when you really begin to write serious codes, you see that these things are very important. Okay. For instance, there are times when you define certain variables and you want those variables to be used. Those variables are meant to be used within all the functions, within several functions. If the same variables are meant to be used inside several functions, then you have, instead of defining and redefining them within all the functions, you can just define them once outside the function, okay, as a global variable. But now there will also be some variables which are local, okay? There will be some such variables. So those variables, you now restrict them, okay, to the various functions, okay? Like we're talking about the banking example, okay? For instance, let's say you have um, a page, rather a module that handles, let's just say, a module handles savings, let's say a withdrawal, okay? Withdrawal. Or let me say a module handles savings bank operations, which is big. Normally, you shouldn't use just one module to handle that, but let me use this to illustrate, okay? Now, let's say within that module, within that program, let's say the program is handling a number of functions. We have an interest application. For example, let's say this is one of the functions. And then let's say there's another function called withdraw, okay, for withdrawal, cash withdrawals. And then there's another function called, let's say, deposits, cash deposits, okay? So now let's say you have these functions. Now, let's take variables let's take a variable like account number, okay? Account number. Let's take a variable like account number, customer account number equals whatever. Let's just put none for now, right? Okay. Now let's say account number needs to be used. Okay. We know that account number will be needed for interest application. Will it be needed for withdrawal? Yes or no?
It will.
Be needed here? Will it be needed for cash deposits?
It will.
Therefore, that kind of variable, you are not supposed to define it as a local variable. You're not supposed to define it inside these functions. Otherwise, you'll be repeating it. You define it here, define it here, define it here, and there might be mix-up. So this kind of variable should be a global variable. You define it outside, and then you can then access it from these functions. Okay? But let's take another variable such as let's say interests amount. Okay, the amount to be given to the customer as interest. Okay, interest amount. Let's initialize it to none for now. This kind of variable, where do you think it will be needed? Will it be needed in withdrawal?
Interest appeal.
Interest amount, that's the interest amount of interest you are given to paying to the
Yes,
customer.
yes. It
Will it be needed in
needed in that
withdrawal?
interest appeal.
Will it be needed in
No,
withdrawal?
interest appeal.
Will it be needed in deposit?
Number
So it will only be needed
two,
here,
yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
So this kind of variable should not be a global variable. It should be a local variable defined inside this one. Can you see the difference? Is it clear now?
Wait, did we just define it inside
What?
that place?
What?
How did the computer know that it's being defined? Is
You
it this
define it. I've not written the function. I'm just explaining. I've not written the function. I'm just telling you that this one will have to be defined inside the interest application function, while this one is defined outside as a global variable. You don't get my point. Don't get it? I've not defined the function. Let's say this is a function, for example. This is a function. Right? So this is a function. Then this one will be inside this function as one of the codes inside this function. Okay? While this one will be outside like this, not inside any function. Is it clearer now? Not inside any function. This one will have its own code. My aim is not to write the complete code now. I'm just illustrating how these things work. What I'm trying to explain to you, the difference between local variable, because you asked that in what situations are they used. That's why I'm illustrating this to you. Okay? Is it clear now? Are you there?
Yes.
Any further question? If there's something that is still not clear, please ask.
So how do we use this account number now? Since you said the account number is everything here is under the account number. So how do we?
Now, for me to explain that, then I have to now start writing the full code, which is not, that will be a whole lot. You use it. Now, when you want to apply simple interest, interest to a customer, of course, you need the customer's account number in order to apply interest to his account.
Okay.
Are you getting it? So within this, now we are not writing this code. This is not code we can just, this is not something I can just now go into right now. There's a whole lot to take a lot of time to do that. Okay, that's almost like you are trying to do a project. Okay, but what I'm simply explaining is that, of course, within this place, you need this account number. If you don't have a customer's account number, how can you apply interest to the person's account?